The investigation into who killed the half-brother of North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un appears to be expanding. This week, Malaysian police said the two women suspected of poisoning Kim Jong Nam at Kuala Lumpur International Airport last week were not only trained by North Korean operatives, they knew exactly what they were doing. Video from Kuala Lumpur shows one of the women grabbing Kim Jong Nam from behind and holding something over his face. At least one of the women claimed she was tricked into attacking Kim, believing that she was taking part in some kind of television prank. Now, two others have already been arrested in connection with the attack, and authorities say they are trying to find additional suspects, including Hyun Kwang-sung from the North Korean embassy in Kuala Lumpur and Kim Ok-il, an employee of North Korea's state-owned airline. Kim Jong Nam was once considered the heir apparent to lead North Korea, but fell out of favor with his father Kim Jong-il back in 2001. South Korea says Kim Jong Un issued a standing order for his half-brother's assassination after the younger brother took power back in 2011. And as we go to air, Malaysian authorities have now identified the deadly chemical toxin that may have been used to kill Kim Jong Nam. We get the latest now from the host of VOA's Asia in a Minute, our very own Steve Miller. Steve Miller, you've been up to date on this. What are we finding out about the chemical that was used to allegedly kill Kim Jong Nam?
Well, Malaysian authorities say it's VX nerve agent, a relatively small quantity.
Which is a banned substance.
It's a bad substance, a very deadly substance. Very small quantities can be used to kill someone, whether it be taken in through the skin or through mucous membranes in the eyes or nose or face.
So how deadly is this chemical actually?
It is very deadly. I mean, very small amounts, trace amounts can actually kill a person, and that may have been what we see in here. The autopsy from the police say that evidence of VX nerve agent was found on the face and in the eyes of Kim Jong Nam in Malaysia. Now, what they've also said is that they aren't sure how it got into the country. They're currently investigating that. They're currently investigating where all these suspects traveled to in the airport and around Malaysia. And also, if it was truly a very small amount, it would be almost incredibly hard to detect.
Who would have access to that kind of a VX nerve agent?
Well, South Korea has said that they believe that North Korea has tons of chemical agents at their disposal. So it could have come from North Korea. It really doesn't know because the Malaysian officials haven't been able to determine how it got into the country.
Right. So North Korea obviously denying that it had any role in this. And one of the suggestions that I heard is, how could this be this VX nerve agent when these women had their hands exposed? How did they survive something as well?
All right. North Korea continues to question the neutrality and the unbiased nature of the investigation. They say that Malaysia is being duped by either the United States or South Korea and trying to paint North Korea as this. And again, the question is, how did these women not get sick or fall ill if it truly was VX nerve agent? Some people say that perhaps they sprayed on some kind of latex or second skin to give them some protection, or if it was truly a very, very small amount, perhaps the thicker skin on the hand gave them some kind of protection, which is why they went to the washroom right afterwards to wash it off.
So obviously what we have is a lot of circumstantial evidence, no smoking gun. So what we do have is motive, correct?
Well, in some cases. I mean, Kim Jong Nam was looked at as possibly a replacement for Kim Jong Il, but again, as you mentioned in this
he was initially the first choice, correct?
At one point, yes.
As the elder brother.
As the elder brother, as the oldest brother, but in 2001, he tried to go to Tokyo and visit Japanese Disneyland there, and that kind of didn't go well, so he fell out of favor. So there's also reports in 2012-ish that Kim Jong Un tried to assassinate him, and that there had been that standing order. So this would fall in line with that narrative.
North Korea's pretty much only friend in that region has been China for the longest time. Have they weighed in at all on this investigation?
Well, I spoke to a number of analysts this week, and what they said is that if you look at Sino-North Korean relations, China accepts a lot of behavior that North Korea does, as long as it doesn't undermine.
They've been quite lenient in the past.
Well, they view it as long as it doesn't undermine Chinese interests, they're willing to accept a certain degree of behavior from North Korea.
Does this now cross that threshold?
What they told me was that if this changes the status quo and North Korea is put back on a terrorism watch list, we could see a change in behavior from Beijing towards Pyongyang.
So it could change the
It
relationship
could.
there.
It just really depends on what
Haven't they
evidence
already
is.
started making inroads that way? Didn't China stop shipping coal?
That's a very good point. But one of the analysts told me is that China's allowed to import a certain amount of coal every year,
Right.
and it's unknown how much coal has been imported so far. So if the quota for the year under the sanctions has already been met, then China canceling further imports would be seen as meeting the sanctions requirement and could be also viewed as promoting themselves as being tougher on China when in fact they couldn't legally import more.
So how is the assassination of Kim Jong Un's half-brother resounding in South Korea, for example?
Well, it certainly is topping a lot of news stories in South Korea, but they're also dealing with the tail end of the Park Geun-hye impeachment trial, which is
they were in the midst of a political scandal, aren't they?
In the midst of political scandal. It continued on this week. Closing arguments for the impeachment trial at the Constitutional Court are set for Monday the 27th. And there's been jockeying back and forth by Park's lawyers saying that the court is too biased against her and trying to seek more time in that.
So, Steve, what's the upshot of that, of all this back and forth? Are we stuck in a bureaucratic kind of situation, or is it just more back and forth political grumbling from both sides? Or can we see actually something concrete happening there?
In South Korea?
Yeah.
Well, the court has said that absolutely on the 27th they will have the closing arguments, that the impeachment case and trial will end that day, and they will move towards the adjudication of the matter and really hope to have a decision on the impeachment of Park Geun-hye sometime in March before another justice's term ends.
So let's wrap this up with the latest we know on the Kim Jong Nam assassination. Where does this investigation go from here? Because I understand Interpol has now been contacted.
Right. So there are 4 people in custody: Malaysian woman, Indonesian woman, her boyfriend who's from Malaysia, a Vietnamese woman, 1 North Korean. 4 North Koreans fled the country, and that is where Malaysian authorities have sought Interpol's assistance in tracking them down.
They're looking for North Korean diplomats, right?
Well, there is one who has been identified, a second secretary, I believe, at the embassy that they would like to question, and they are trying to facilitate that as well.
So this story is ongoing, and we expect to have you back on for the latest updates on this international assassination that's turning into almost something like something we see in a movie,
yes.
right? Well, Steve Miller, thank you so much for all that information.